So maybe the least stressful edition of the Herb and Raj podcast with no game coming up this week. We can actually relax. Plus, Bama Beat is here, so we'll probably just let him take over, and Raj will probably go get a drink or something and come back in an hour. So we'll get started here in 20 seconds. So Raj, it's a little hectic night. Are you doing okay? We good for the show?
Good. I'm doing good. Just taking care of some baby stuff. And first night of the NBA, I haven't even caught a second of the game yet.
Okay.
So I'm just going off the scores off the ESPN. But
so at times you've been really upset, and at times you're like, okay, it's getting a little better. And
yeah, it is.
It is. Right. So
it's all good.
Are you gonna be distracted during tonight?
No, I'm good. You got me 100%. I'm good.
Okay. So it's one of our favorite people. Always drop some knowledge. I've got my pen and my notepad ready so I can follow along here. Okay. Got some stuff that you might not know about him though, even though he's been on several times. Okay.
Okay. I'm curious to hear this.
He was in the Big Al costume the year that Saban won his first championship at Alabama. That whole year.
Oh wow. Okay.
Big Al. Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't know that. Yep. He lifts more than Jalen Hurts and is faster than Jalen Milroe.
We know Jalen can squat about 600 though, right?
Right.
Okay.
I think he's at 602. So yeah.
600. Okay. I don't know how you get the 2-pound weight, but
and this past weekend, well, he has like a little kid hold on to it or something like that. I don't know. This past weekend, he was the one that gave the halftime speech that rallied Alabama past Tennessee.
I recognize. I knew I recognized.
You knew. I see. Yep.
I knew it. So I knew it. Awesome.
Welcome in, Bama Beat. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good, guys. That was quite the introduction.
Of course.
The first and third one might have been believable, but that second one, throwing out all those weights and speeds, I don't know about that.
I felt like that was the most believable of the three.
Yeah.
Do you see me right now? I do look like I can do
that. So how are you doing tonight, man? Everything good?
Yeah, I'm good. How are y'all?
Good.
Doing good. Excited, I guess, to have you on, and happy that we won this past weekend. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a minute. But definitely excited to have you on.
Good evening to Lady Alpha, and then of course Randy, Florida.
Randy, shout out to Randy.
It's that week, so gonna see it. Randy joined us last week for the bye week. So we'll start into the season and maybe start with Tennessee and work backwards. But I do have to say this: you've changed one thing about the way I watch the games now. Every time Nye Black catches the ball, I'm like, oh, hey, baby, what's up? That's your guy. I mean,
prior to the season, we knew who Nye Black was, but we didn't know how intricate he was as far as the offense. And then once you said his name, it's like, bam, bam, here he is everywhere. He's like, I don't know what you said, and maybe you did give him a speech prior to the season, or you did something, but Nye Black is the guy.
Yes.
That was my goal. I mean, he's always been a talented player. It's just, he's kind of raw coming out of high school. It's just about, developing. And I think there's still development, to be continued. So hoping he can become a bigger and bigger part of the offense.
What year is Nye Black? Is he a sophomore or was he?
Yes, I believe he's a sophomore.
Okay, good.
It feels like it's been like 2 years since you've been talking about him, but maybe it's because you started last year. I guess kind of jumping on the train. And then you did make an ultimatum. You said if it doesn't happen this year, you were back off the train, right?
Yeah. I might have stuck on there for 1 more year. I try to give guys at least 2 years. You do have some guys that emerge in their senior year, but usually by that junior year, if they haven't, flashed at least a couple times, then time's running out.
Yeah, I agree.
That's true.
So going back, Raj and I have already talked a million times about this. So kind of give your perspective on what you saw this weekend and the roller coaster that was the Tennessee game.
Yeah, I mean, pretty consistent with how the season's gone so far.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's kind of been a season of one good half, one bad half. The good thing is most of the time that better half is the second half.
Yeah.
Arkansas was the opposite, but I think when I was on with you guys last, I said, this is going to be a developmental team, and this was before the season. It's going to be a team that has to get better with each and every game. And I think that's played out. I'll admit that they weren't as far as long as I even thought they were before the season. But, it's other than the fact that they were a little further behind, I think the way it's played out so far, getting better each and every week is what we wanted to see.
Yeah. I think we can both agree from where we started off with that first game with Middle Tennessee State. It's been we've had our ebbs and flows throughout the season, but these past few weeks, especially in my opinion, from the defensive perspective, the defense has gotten a lot better. And I think offensively, I felt like the turning point was the second half of the A&M game, because if I recall, it seemed like the first 7 or 8 plays Reeves drew up, we were all pass plays, and I think at that point we just figured this is the only way we're going to win this game. So he just kept throwing the ball. And I've always felt like Milroe was going to get better. The more reps he has and the more passes he makes, we'll start to see him develop more as a quarterback. Do you agree? Or?
Yeah, and I think with Milroe, it's at this point, I think it's about doing the small things, setting up the right protections pre-play, making the right reads pre-snap, going through I think he's getting better at going through progressions, but going through progressions in the order that you need to go through them based on the defense, based on the look that the defense gives you. I think that's the stuff that's going to make him more consistent. From a physical standpoint, I think his footwork is still all over the place a little bit. I think that's why you saw some ball sail against Tennessee, and we've seen that happen a few times this year. I'm not sure that's a thing you can fix in season. That's probably an off-season deal. But, yeah, he's certainly progressing. I think the more willing he can be as a runner, and the more he can add that into his game, the better. I think everybody came into the year thinking, like, Milroe is a fantastic runner, and he obviously has the skill set to be that. But I think he's still progressing as an instinctive runner, knowing when to leave the pocket, knowing when to, put your foot in the ground and get vertical. And I think the more Alabama can add that to the offense, the easier the passing game is going to come.
Yeah, I agree. Do you feel like the lack of runs, because you're touching on it right there, is a design thing? Is that a Reese thing? Or is that Milroe not taking off like as much as we think? Because we knew Bryce didn't do it, but Bryce was a much better passer. And I think Raj and I watch a lot of games, and we're like, he could have run right there. He could have taken off right there. Is it strictly him trying to be a pocket passer, or are they trying to force him to be a pocket passer?
The designed runs, I think there needs to be a little bit more in the game plan. So that to me is a play calling thing. Now, as far as making plays with your legs off of pass plays and that not being really a thing we've seen too much so far, I think that's more of a Milroe thing. I don't think they're forcing him to be a pocket passer. I mean, I think they want to continue for him to develop as a pocket passer. But I mean, I'm sure the coaching staff realizes that for this team to reach its full potential, he's got to use his legs. I mean,
definitely.
We're not going to win any big games with him just sitting in the pocket. The better defenses are going to eat that up.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's true.
Were you about to say something, Raj?
No, go.
Okay, sorry. And I lost my train of thought with the Milroe thing. Sorry, with the O-line, that's where we're going. So as far as we're watching how many sacks Milroe's been taking, and Raj and I kind of been on the one train of thought. So I want somebody obviously smarter than us to break this down. I feel like, especially lately, a lot of the sacks he's taken are his based on either not setting proper protection or, like holding too long or running into it. So am I wrong? Is it still, offensive line needs to get a little more credit for this, or is it still him just kind of learning back there and seeing where he needs to get to?
Well, it's obvious Alabama has some issues in pass protection on the offensive line, especially on that left side. I think Caden Proctor is going to be a pretty good player eventually, but I think he's being asked to play a position that he's not capable of playing right now. He needs to lose about 30 to 40 pounds, and he probably needs another year in the strength and conditioning program to continue to gain strength. He's a kid out of Iowa. He's probably bigger than everybody he played against in high school. So he's still developing. So Alabama has offensive line issues, but I'd say about 40 to 50% of the sacks this year are probably on Milroe. And I'd say, like you were saying, the majority of the ones lately are more on Milroe, whether it's, bailing on a clean pocket, kind of drifting into a sack, because he can't, he's kind of in that middle ground where he doesn't know if he wants to run or pass. And then the pre-snap stuff is huge. I mean, how many times have we seen a free blitzer come off the edge this year and just, nobody even touches them?
Yeah.
Some of that's offensive line, but a lot of that's the quarterback. You got to identify that stuff and either shift the protection or throw hot. That's how you beat the blitz. Throw hot, throw behind it. And unfortunately, we haven't seen that too much this year.
Yep. So as far as obviously it's been up and down, but we kind of discussed how many games we could have possibly won or lost. So at this point of the season, have they met your expectations? Or I feel like there's only two choices: either met them or below them. I don't really feel like anybody's going to say we've exceeded expectations, even though we still have all the goals ahead of us.
Yeah, I mean, record-wise, I think this is the best you could realistically expect. With Alabama's schedule to only have one loss to this point, that's probably what I would have predicted as the best case scenario heading into the bye week. I kind of thought they might drop that A&M road game. They ended up dropping the Texas home game. So really, the results in those two games just flipped for me. I kind of thought they'd win it against Texas at home, and they would lose to A&M on the road. A&M has ended up not being as good as I thought they would be. Kind of a running theme with Jimbo Fisher's teams lately. But
and to that point, just real quick, sorry. I just always feel like Jimbo tries to get his guys up for the Alabama game and kind of coast the rest. And I call that the Gus Malzahn theory, because I feel like there was 3 or 4 years in a row where they were trying to fire him. And so he'd play his best against Georgia and Alabama. If he could win at least one of those games, they kept him around for years past. And I think that's what Jimbo's doing. Like, let me put everything I have into the Alabama game, and then after that, it's kind of whatever happens. So,
well, I think Texas A&M banked on the fact that Milroe could not beat them with his arm. They really sold out to stop Alabama's running game, and credit to Milroe, he made them pay for it.
Right. Which is weird. I mean, especially with the terrible secondary like they've been all year, to kind of, I understand that strategy, but you had to know it was possible to backfire for sure.
They faced him the year before, and he didn't have a ton of success passing the ball. I think he did have a few passing touchdowns, but did most of his damage on the ground.
Right.
So maybe they thought that they could just kind of go in there with the same game plan. But it's obvious he's progressed from last year to the point where he can make you pay. And Jermaine Burton, has a huge game. I made some posts on Twitter. His antics are starting to.
Gosh. Oh my gosh!
It's man.
You need to tone it down a little bit.
I want to take a victory lap a little bit, because I feel like I've been on y'all's show for a couple of years now saying, Jermaine Burton's an extremely talented player. He's better than he played last year. And I feel like he's showing that this year, but just that some of the extracurricular stuff is
it's mad.
Is a downer on the way he's performing. So eventually it could cost Alabama. I would like to see that cleaned up, because, LSU is going to be a tight game. You get a 15-yard penalty in a bad time in that game, and it could have greater repercussions than just frustrating Alabama fans.
And opponents know that he's easily antagonized, so they'll mess with him, and they're going to continue to do so until they get the flags. And like you just mentioned, I do get nervous sometimes that we have a big play or he makes a big catch, and then his antics, cause us to get like a 15-yard penalty, and then everything comes back. So.
Yeah, there's times I'm surprised. Like Raj, to piggyback on yours, like he gets up and he's over the defender or something. I'm thinking this is about to come back somehow.
Dude, you just caught the ball. Let's just keep it moving. We don't have to do that every play.
Yeah. No, I agree. So kind of looking, I guess, at where we are in the season up to this point, you got LSU coming up next. What is and obviously you got a whole nother week, I guess, to think about it. What does your gut kind of tell you about that game? And no matter how LSU has looked and defense wise look, they win this game, and you got to think Ole Miss is going to lose to Georgia most likely. That puts them in the driver's seat in the SEC West.
Yeah, I mean, this game is for the SEC West, in my opinion. And what more could you ask for? If you're Alabama, you've got a revenge game at home against LSU with a chance to win the West. I don't love the matchup, to be honest. Really, any team that can score a lot of points is going to worry me with Alabama, because how inefficient they are offensively. I know LSU's defense is not good at all, but Alabama's offense has a tendency to stop themselves with negative plays, penalties, sacks, turnovers. you're just not going to be able to do that against LSU, because if you go through a lull, like Alabama's tended to do this year, or if you have a first half like Alabama had Saturday against Tennessee, you very well could be down 28-0.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Alabama's got a really good defense, probably a great defense, but maybe not elite. They've been elite at times, stretches they've played at elite level, but realistically, what can they hold this LSU offense to? I mean, I think the magic number is 24 to 34 points for LSU. And then you just got to hope as offense. I think the offense probably need to be 35 and above to feel like you're going to win the game.
Yeah, I was hovering around somewhere around 30. I said if we can get around 30 points, I think we can pull it out as long as the defense can get some stops. But I think the key for Alabama is just not having these slow starts that we're used to having, because just like Beat mentioned, I mean, if we get down, if we go have a couple of 3 and outs to start the game off, which we're for some odd reason we're used to doing, then we're going to be down 14-21-6 at half, and then we can't just keep our fingers crossed and hope that the same thing happens that we did in Tennessee to LSU. So
I agree.
We got to start off fast, score early.
Jaden.
Go ahead,
Herb.
No, you're good. Good.
Jaden Daniels is just so dangerous. I said he was the X factor going into last year's game, and I think that ended up playing out. Alabama just did not contain him in the pocket, and as good as Alabama's defensive line and pass rush have been this year, they've lost contain against some good running quarterbacks at times. Jackson Dart, KJ Jefferson hurt Alabama outside of the pocket. So, you do that against Jaden
and
Daniels,
Milton as well, which I didn't expect.
Milton did as well. If you do that against Jaden Daniels, it's going to be a 40 to 50-yard touchdown. He can hurt you from the pocket too, but you'd rather take your chances and make him make throws. They got so many weapons at receiver: Malik Neighbors, Lacey, Brian Thomas. It's just going to be – I think they're the first team Alabama's played really since Texas that has the weapons on the outside to really test a secondary that's been pretty good. They got a sneaky tight end, Mason Taylor. So that's what worries me about their offense. They've got a solid offensive line. I just think, Alabama did a really good job against Ole Miss, and we saw Ole Miss can score with LSU, but I don't think Ole Miss has the same level of talent.
No.
I think Ole Miss schemed up a lot of points against LSU. I don't think LSU has to scheme up points as much as Ole Miss does. They just got so much talent on the edge and inside.
Yeah. And because we're talking about LSU, I hate to give props to everybody else, but are you guys surprised that Daniels isn't more in the Heisman race? And is this and does it worry you that this is going to be his put a stamp on it kind of a game?
I think he should be the favorite. As far as he's maybe not the best player in the country, but I've said for a while the best player in the country is Brock Bowers. But we all know quarterback's probably going to win the award. And I haven't seen anybody better this year. I know Michael Penix has played well up at Washington. I think he's a really good player, but
Roll Tide, David.
Daniels has been the most consistent that I've seen. He wasn't great in that Florida State game, and that's what gives me hope. Because Florida State's got a physical defense and a high-level defense like Alabama. That's my hope, that Alabama can kind of produce similar results. But, very impressed with him so far. He's developed a lot.
Yeah, I think I still have Penix up there around 1 or 2. But, to answer your question, I think the 2 losses and the way that LSU's defense is playing is kind of stealing from some of his thunder as far as his Heisman predictions are. So, I don't have the list in front of me, but he's definitely a top 3 player as far as the Heisman is concerned.
What is your guys' confidence level, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, of Alabama actually reaching the 30-point mark against LSU? It's a little scary that y'all have to think about it too.
Are you saying 10 is like the
10
most
is like
confident?
we're 100% we're scoring 30.
I'll go with a 6.5, 7. I feel like potential wise, yes, we can do that, but it's just going to come down to the play calling. And then again, what I mentioned earlier, if we can go ahead and strike first and strike early. And that's why I'm kind of leaning towards the opposite end, because these slow starts are really, really difficult to watch. And I don't want us to get behind, but I feel like we can get 30. I think we can get 30, especially if Jalen Milroe has a game like he did against A&M.
Yeah, I was thinking 7. Honestly, I think we can get 40, but you have to play clean the whole game.
Right.
We haven't seen that all year, so not great odds. But I think Alabama's capable of 40 on that defense. I think they're going to have to. You can run the football on LSU,
right?
So I would really try to lean on the running game. Alabama's running game's kind of emerged a little bit the past few weeks. Probably still not where you want it to be, but it's getting better. You run the ball a little bit, play keep away, keep your defense on the sideline, keep Jaden Daniels on the sideline.
Yep.
I mean, that's the recipe, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah.
What stat line do you need from Milroe to win this game?
I think
Go ahead.
I'm thinking like bare minimum 15 of 25, 15 of 28, something like. I don't think you want him throwing 30 plus passes.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you could have 20 to 30 attempts with him completion percentage around between 60 and 70%, maybe 250 yards passing, 250 yards passing. I think you could feel pretty good about winning the game. Maybe one turnover, no more than one turnover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Similar.
Similar. I was thinking around 230 yards passing because I think we'll do more damage on the ground than we have in the previous weeks, and that'll kind of help him out. But 230 yards, some tight passes. He'll have his big gains that he has pretty much every game. But I'm more interested to see him doing the 10 to 15 yards, a little shorter passes, and just kind of move the ball down the field, because I feel like every time we have a big pass and it's like 40 to 50 yards and we score, sometimes we score so fast and the defense just doesn't get enough rest.
That's the Tua effect right there.
And
I think that's what
that. Yep. And I think that was kind of evident in the Tennessee game, because when you saw how the defense played, obviously we didn't play that great in the first half, but then they came in the third quarter and they played exceptionally well in the second, to kind of finish out the games. I think they had that rest. So yeah, I'm thinking 230 passing yards. We'll do some damage on the ground. Maybe have 50 to 60 rushing yards from Milroe, and then we'll spread it across McClellan, Roydo Williams. I would like to see Justice Haynes get in there more, but obviously that'll, we'll probably see more of that next year.
Well, that's the thing. Can Alabama sustain drives?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what really helped in the second half of the Tennessee game. Obviously they had the big play on the first drive scored within 2 plays, but can they sustain drives? Can they stay on the field on third down, convert third downs? Because, I really do think to win the game, you really got to be close to time of possession with LSU. I'm not a huge time of possession guy, but I do think this is one of those games where you need to be within shouting distance of whatever time of possession LSU has.
Agreed. All right. I hope neither one of y'all has stats in front of you, because we'll go through a little fun trivia, which I'm assuming Bama Beat's going to beat you, Raj, but
Probably so.
Just some goofy questions, though. Who has the longest reception this year for Alabama?
Do we got to raise our hands, or do we have a buzzer?
Whoever starts blurting out first. I forgot I had a Justice Haynes question too, by the way.
I'm going to go with Bond. I want to say Burton might be the obvious. Wait. I'm trying to think. Black had one. I'm going to go with Bond since that was my first answer, and I honestly don't know the answer to this question. So I'm going to go with Bond.
I was going to say Bond too.
Kobe Prentice, the 79-yarder against Arkansas.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Okay.
All right. So Black, our favorite, has 3 touchdowns on 12 receptions this year. So we're 25% share.
Yeah.
What Alabama person has a touchdown on 33% of their catches this year? Alabama wide receiver, so not a running back.
33%.
Yep. And you're probably thinking, but Raj, you should know this one because someone came up with a really goofy joke about it.
I'm drawing a blank.
The Hail Mary.
Oh!
Hail with 1 touchdown and 3 catches.
I forgot about that.
I told you they're going to be goofy questions. They're not going to be the ones that jump to your mind, but this is what my twisted mind comes up with. Caleb Down lead the team in tackles with 63. Who are in your number 2 and 3 spots? In any order, doesn't matter. One's in the secondary, one is not.
Tyrion Arnold? No.
I'm thinking one of them's linebackers. One of the linebackers. and I would guess it's either Tresman Marshall or Deontay Lawson.
Deontay Lawson
Okay.
with 49, and Key is right behind him with 45.
Oh wow!
Yep.
I wouldn't guess.
So here's a goofy one for you. Dallas Turner leads the team with 8 sacks. How many yards has he accounted for with those 8 sacks?
Did you? I'm just gonna guess. 8 sacks.
60.
Boom! Nailed it exactly.
Is that it? Oh,
Are you looking it up, or did you just know that?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, total guess on my part. Educated guess. But.
Yeah.
60 exactly. Yes, sir. And then let's see. Do we want to give you this one? Which Alabama running back has the highest per yards average?
Jam Miller.
Nope. A good guess.
Roydale.
Nope.
Justice Haynes.
The higher you get up with the rushes, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So Justice Haynes with 6.2. Yep. And I did have a question about it. Is the reason because I was listening to one of the little Alabama, I should say one of the Alabama broadcasts, and they're really high on Justice Haynes. Have we not seen more of him because of pass protection stuff? And that was one of their speculations. So I'm totally stealing that from him. Or is it just his order on the depth chart coming into the year?
Probably a little bit of both. They tend to go with elder guys, especially, Jason Roydale, especially Roydale, somebody who spent, time in the program, could have easily transferred somewhere else, but stuck around. And, Jace has been a baller since he got there. So I think they're the upperclassmen. They're going to get the majority of the work. Haynes did come in against Arkansas and had a chance to pass protect and kind of got blown up. So that's probably playing a factor. I would say that McClellan and Roydale aren't the best pass blockers either. So I don't want to say that's all the only reason, but yeah, I think a little bit of both there.
Definitely eager to see them in the future. Raj, before we get into some grades for the team, do you want to give us what you have prepared, Raj's top 5 favorite players on this year's team?
All right, and this is in no particular order.
Nothing is ever in any order.
It is because it can kind of go either way with some of these guys.
I know you're number one, Jermaine Burton.
No. Number one,
hope he's not watching.
He's on the list, not number one. But again,
really,
based on what I said, Burton can be one. But I got Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid's just been one of my. Is
that because of his name or because you actually like him?
2% of it is probably his name. The other 98 is probably because I actually like him. He's been a strength of our secondary, great player, good kick returner. I would like to see him run one back. I'm also worried that he's going to fumble the ball.
We're deducting points for kick return lately. We're deducting points.
Okay, well,
it's been awful.
This is subjective. So.
I agree.
Number 2, and I think we can all agree on this, Will Reichert. He's been absolutely perfect all season. 21 for 21, and then I think 13 on field goal. Perfect. He's setting records. He's going to continue to set some more records as the season progresses. Number 3, Jermaine Burton leads the leading receiver. He's kind of emerged as our star receiver, and this was an obvious one. I mean, I've been waiting on this. Coming into the season, I was like, I wonder who's going to be that number one guy. And for the first few weeks, we really didn't have a number one. It was just a couple of different guys, catching the ball. But I think Jermaine has kind of emerged, and he's the number one receiver right now. So
I just feel like he's the guy most likely to lead the team in receptions, touchdowns, and
penalty yards.
Penalty yards. Yeah. Just the trifecta in one game.
Number 4, I have Milroe here. Before I put this name down, I kind of laughed because I said in the first 3 weeks, if you had asked me this, he wouldn't have been on the list at all. But like I said, after the second half of the A&M game, he's kind of progressed much, much more as a passer and doing things that we actually all want to see him doing. And I kind of feel like his passing, and then with the help of McClellan and Roydale running the ball, we can even open up the window for him running the ball even more. I would like to see him run the ball 5-6 times at least minimum a game and get some good yardage there.
And Ross, to his point, man, I love his character. I know that was a hit, I guess, against South Florida, but it just seems like he's improved since then. So I like the way he's presented himself.
I agree.
Very likable player.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to like him.
Yeah, I agree.
And number 5, the fabulous freshman Caleb Downs leads the team in tackles and interceptions. I like Caleb Downs. He's the future.
Now, Raj, we have a guest on the show, and you didn't pick his favorite player on your list.
What, Nye Black?
Yes. What
I
kind
didn't
of clothes?
pick that because I knew Nye Black was gonna his guy. I had to go outside the box a little bit. Nye Black is up there. Nye Black could easily make the top 5. So
one guy who would make it into my top 5 is Chris Braswell.
Oh yeah.
He's made so many plays this year. I mean,
yeah.
he gets that blocked field goal stolen from him against A&M, and I'm still salty about that.
Man.
That was so. What made that worse was when they showed the replay of the blindside block, and I was like, "Come on, he didn't even."
You have to put it
down.
In quotes. Blindside block.
Yeah, I'm sorry, blindside block, and the guy he hit didn't even fall down. I said that was horrible.
Yeah, I scored a defensive touchdown against Mississippi State. He forces that fumble on the strip sack on Saturday. I mean, he's been just an absolute playmaker for Alabama. I mean, I think Alabama's outside linebackers this year, they're performing at the level I expected them to last year. So that's exciting.
To the point on that one call, and then we'll move on. The podcast I was listening to, they mentioned, and they said their best point about it was if the refs didn't call that, nobody on the sideline would have been arguing that it should have been a call. He said that's the biggest point you can make about like it shouldn't have been called. So, all right, we do want to take a look in a minute, I guess, at maybe around the country. So let's get through the rest of Alabama real quick. You know how we like to do in midseason, we're going to give out some grades for the positions. This should be the fun one to start off with because everyone is playing. Well, you've had 3 play out there. Quarterback.
So I'll say B-. And I'm going to say that my ratings are kind of relative to the expectations that I had coming in. So I think Milrose continued to progress. I'm excited about some of the things I've seen the last few weeks. I do think he was probably a liability for the first 3, 4, 5 games. But he's becoming more of a contributor for Alabama, not so much of a liability. Still plenty of things to work on. Like I said, I think it's the small things that he needs to start doing better. But considering the mess Alabama's quarterback situation was in fall camp, 2 or 3 weeks into fall camp is when I started getting worried about the Texas game because I was not hearing good things about the quarterback. So Miller's done an admirable job this year.
Yeah.
Is Buckner still on campus?
Yeah, he is, man, and I feel for Tyler Buckner. I'll just say this: I know he's become a whipping boy in the Alabama fan base. I think he's better than what he showed against South Florida. I think the moment was too big for him, which doesn't bode well if when you're playing in the SEC. He's a smart kid. He's a really nice kid. I feel bad for him that it didn't work out, but he got an opportunity and didn't work out. So there's not much more you can ask for.
True.
So where exactly is he still number 3 on the depth chart, or did he slide further down than that?
He's either 3rd or 4th. Lonergan. It's hard to say what the pecking order is. Lonergan's warmed up with Brockermeyer in a few games this year, so potentially that could signal that he's the 3rd guy up, but they don't really let that kind of stuff out of the building. So
yeah,
gotcha. Running back.
I'm gonna say a B. And some of that is the offensive line. I think this is a offensive line unit that's getting better as a run blocking unit, but I don't think Alabama, at least Alabama's starting backs, I don't think they're the type that can really do a lot on their own. They need a good offensive line to run behind, so that may be what's brought their production down a little bit. You could maybe go B+ with that group, but I think they've been, adequate this year, but nothing spectacular.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
Yeah, it is a hard one. Both are a hard one to judge because of that. So then we'll jump in there. Offensive line.
Yeah.
Raj.
Sorry.
So I'm gonna go C+. I thought coming into the year that the offensive line, with when the season ends, we look back on the offensive line and how that position group would tell us a lot about how the season went.
Right.
I think they've been underwhelming so far, given the expectations coming in. Alabama's obviously got an issue at left tackle with Caden Proctor. We already discussed that. I think he's going to be a good player eventually, but I don't think he's ready to play left tackle. I actually do think the insertion of Jaden Roberts at right guard has been a huge boost to the offensive line. I think he's playing at a really high level right now. So is J.C. Latham, and so is Booker. Seth it hasn't been a great year for Seth, honestly.
What happened there, by the way? It feels like he was a strength and somebody you were really pushing last year, and then this year is just.
Yeah, he gained a lot of weight. He's playing at a weight that's a lot higher than he's played at in the past. So, I don't know if he's lost some quickness there.
Right.
He can't finesse guys like he probably used to at that weight. Snaps have been an issue. So,
right.
I think that unit's improving, and I think it's still the word's still out on what they potentially end up being, over the second half of the year. But I'd say to this point, bit of a disappointment.
Yep. Rod, you shaking your head? You with that one?
I agree. The offensive line has been kind of shaky all year, and I'm glad you mentioned what you said about Caden Proctor earlier, because Herb and I have talked about this several times, and I was like, does he really just need to lose some weight to kind of work on his lateral movement? I'm not too versed on that, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because I kind of feel like that's the same thing. Coming in, he's a 5-star big guy out of Iowa, and you're thinking he's just going to dominate the offensive line, and they ran all over him all year.
Yeah. Or ran right around him.
Or ran right around him.
He's not even getting his hands on people.
Yeah, and I would say the mistake there was probably not moving J.C. Latham from right tackle to left tackle. I mean, I think in hindsight, that would have been the better move. I mean, you would have still had an issue at one of the tackle spots. Right tackle would have been an issue whether it was Caden Proctor or Elijah Pritchett. But at least the issue is now on your quarterback's broad side instead of his blind side.
Right. I agree.
The good thing is Caden's just a freshman, so he's getting the experience in now. He'll come back in next year, probably a little lighter and got the experience down. So he'll be just fine.
He's going to be a good player.
Yeah.
People just need to be patient.
Yeah. Big Mike has already predicted all SEC for him. So
wouldn't be surprised.
Wide
receiver.
I'm going to go A minus, and this may be a little high. I thought maybe B+, but all the talk in fall camp about drops, and I was hearing the same things, and I was on Twitter saying that it was an issue. I don't think I think they've played to a level greater than I expected. I mean,
I agree.
Burton has turned into a number one wide receiver, his antics aside. Isaiah Bond has been a big deep threat. I think those are probably Alabama's two most consistent receivers. You're getting a little dash of Kobe Prentice, Ja'Cory Brooks. We saw Kendrick Law more on Saturday against Tennessee, which I'm surprised it took that long for us to see more of him. But I like what I saw there. I thought
what happened with Brooks? Offense. Where is Brooks at though?
I was gonna say what happened with Benson too. We see Benson every now and then, but
I heard some not so good things about Brooks heading into the season, so I wasn't super surprised that he didn't have a huge role. Seems like he's playing a little bit more now, but I don't know if we'll see him at the, I don't know that he'll have the role he had last year at any point this season. It seems like he's kind of been, some guys are, have kind of played their way over him. Benson, you never know with JUCOs. A lot of hype when he first came on campus, and you started hearing less and less of him as spring progressed and as summer progressed. And I've noticed he's had some issues blocking on the perimeter, which a lot of our receivers have. So I want to single him out just for that. But he's dropped a few balls. So I think Alabama's got just better options right now with the way they're all playing.
Yep.
I feel like the wide receiver core can probably get. I'm going to go with the B+ with the wide receivers. I feel like I would give them a higher grade if they could just get the ball a little more. What?
I'm just saying. I don't know that them not getting the ball. Well, I'll take.
No, it's not necessarily their fault. That's just
right.
I would like to see them get the ball more. That's all. Yeah. But as far as what they've done, I think they've done an exceptional job of what they've been given and the passes that they've received. And as B just mentioned, seeing very, very few drop balls this year as opposed to the past 2 years, which is also always good to see. So. Yeah. I'm pleased with the wide receiver core.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go in the computer and change your grade from a B+ to an A.
That's fine.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'll say this about the wide receivers. My main knock would be their blocking. I don't think the perimeter blocking has been very good at all, and that's why Alabama hasn't been able to really add screens as an effective part of the offense. But other than that, it's hard not to be happy with that group, considering what Alabama went through last year.
Yep.
Yeah. Bryce is probably looking like you guys couldn't catch this stuff for me. So, sorry, Bryce. We apologize now. And then, of course, tight end. Come on.
I'm going to say B. Yeah, I think it's been a good group.
Right.
And when I say B, it's probably not a slight towards the players as much as it is how they're being utilized in the offense.
I would agree.
I thought they would be utilized a little bit more just with Tommy Reese's history at Notre Dame of really using tight ends. The production hasn't quite been there, but with Alabama's passing game, there's only so much production there. Right. So if the tight ends were getting more production, then we'd probably be looking at the wide receivers and saying, what the heck are the wide receivers doing? So I'm going to say B just because I think they've been pretty good. I think Niblack's been really good.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to get CJ Dupree as involved as I hope they would. And, but the few catches he's gotten, he's got some burst.
Yeah.
That surprised me. So I wish we could get him involved a little bit more, but I think it's been pretty good. Just would like to see him used a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's spot on.
Yeah.
Another grade from a person out there. Get an A for turning off at halftime. Yes, this was a Twitter thing. So thanks for Kat for plugging in. Yeah, she was posted on there, and we started winning. She's like, "Well, we started winning after I turned it off. What do I do?" And everybody was like, "Stay off."
Speaking of halftime, take a second right quick and tell everybody what happened at halftime of the Tennessee game. Tell them who you called and what was said to the person that you called.
I can't remember who I talked to at halftime. So first off, there's only one person I even talked to during the games. Okay, the only person that can call me during the game is Raj. My mom won't call me during the game and get an answer. So Raj calls, I answer. We're usually off on the feed, so we can't talk very long. But we're sitting there, we're upset in the middle of the halftime in Tennessee, and Raj says, "Nah, I'm not anywhere. We're coming back. This is about to be an epic comeback for the second half." And I was like, okay. I think I even posted it, Raj. Raj said it's about to happen. And then, of course, Raj being Raj, I have to see, I told you. So
I'm going to rub it in. Yeah.
But he called it. There was no worry in him. For my part, I just changed every bit of clothing I had. So that was my goal. So.
Well, I'll give you props, Raj, because I wasn't feeling too great at halftime. I was in Tuscaloosa, and I couldn't get my halftime thoughts out, and because
I looked for those down there, and I didn't see them. I was like, he must be really mad.
I couldn't get anything out, and I'm kind of happy I couldn't in hindsight, because it was going to be a pretty it was going to be a pretty negative review of that first half.
I mean, I think we all felt the same way at halftime, but I just kind of accepted it, and I knew that somewhere in the second half we would start to play better, and that would kind of ignite the comeback. I just didn't think it would happen as good and as fast as it did this past Saturday. But we can't afford to do that again. We can't afford to do that against LSU.
That was sweet after last year, man. Just to blank them 27-0. That's just.
Yeah, and I love the fact that every single one of them, their only argument is, "Oh, the refs." I said, so you guys didn't watch last year's game at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And you also, I don't think fans realize this. You let your team off the hook when your only argument is the refs.
Yeah.
You got blanked 27-0.
Right.
But if you look at it and go, "Well, the refs screwed us," then you're saying we don't need to make any adjustments. We played well enough to win that game. And one of the same. What is it? The Locked On Network. I listened to their Tennessee broadcast, and I'll give that guy credit. He mentioned everything in there, and he said, "Look, refs were bad. They're not why you lost the game."
Right.
Like there was just no fight and no. And I guess one of their players actually even came out and said it's like they took their foot off the gas for the second half. To me, those are more honest breakdowns of what happened versus just copping out and blaming the refs. We didn't like the refs in last year's game, but what is the first thing I'll say? We should have settled for that long field goal at the end. We should have kept driving or pushing. We should have started off the game so terrible, and we shouldn't have settled for a long field goal. That's what I point to for last year.
Yep.
So any fan that's just giving their team that cop out, you're not pushing your team to be any better.
Right.
So, all right, rant over. Sorry. We'll go over to the defensive side. So how about the defensive line?
A- for me. really felt like this was the position group that was going to have to step up for Alabama's defense to play at a really high level. I feel like they've done that. I think this is the best the defensive line's played under Freddie Roach. I've heard Kevin Steele's also had a hand in that and getting more involved with that position group. The emergence of Tim Keenan is huge. He's really turning into a dominant nose guard. Allows you to move Jaheim Otis outside. Otis is way underweight from where he came in at. He's got more of a defensive end body right now. Justin Aboigbe's made some big plays. I think Tim Smith's playing at a really high level, and Damon Payne's added some depth there. Just really happy with the defensive line group. Like I said, probably main criticism, we've lost some of our gap integrity at times. Lost contain on some quarterbacks that we can't be losing contain on, but really stout in the running game. I mean, they're plugging gaps fantastic. Yep. I mean, I can't remember. It's been a long time since I felt this good about Alabama's defense in short yardage situations.
Yeah, that's true.
They've got to be batting 75, 80% when teams go for it on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 and 3rd and 1 situations. So you can't not be happy with the defensive line, in my opinion.
Yep. Rod, you shaking your head. You love that, Greg?
I agree. 1,000%. Things have just increased and gotten better week after week after week, and I'm loving what we're seeing. To that point, is it safe to say we're getting back to the Alabama standard on defense, or do we still have some more things to prove?
Probably both.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we still got some more things to prove against some better offenses.
Yeah, right.
But I think every game, every play that goes by where you kind of see that old standard that was there on defense, the players grow in confidence, and just a lot of defense is belief and doing things over and over consistently. And I think the more Alabama does that, the better they're going to get, because that was a culture that was built over years, under multiple defensive coordinators. And I think they lost that a little bit under Pete Golding. Yeah. And I think Kevin Steele's brought it back.
Right back.
Was Golding just a bad fit for here, or is it more, or am I making it too simple or too complex?
Yeah, I think Golding knows defense at a really high level. I mean, I think he can work on a whiteboard with anyone. But sometimes more complex isn't better.
Right.
I think Kevin Steele has simplified the defense. When I watch Alabama communicate, I think it's the communication's better, probably because it's simpler. There some guys are, and I'm not saying this about Golding specifically, but some guys can talk it, but maybe not walk it on game day. When teams are going fast and you're having to get calls in there quickly. And Kevin Steele's an old head. He's been around. He's got a lot of experience, and I think when you have that experience to fall back on, it certainly helps.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. Linebacking group.
Hey, Alabama's linebackers are playing at a high level. This is the best the middle linebackers have played in several years, in my opinion. I mean, Deontay Lawson is, another alpha linebacker that we were used to Alabama having, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Tresman Marshall and Jihad Campbell have done well. They're different players. Tresman's probably not as athletic as Jihad, but he's a heady player. He knows where to be. Jihad kind of had a coming out party against Tennessee. You see the potential there. I think he's going to be a really good player in the future. And Alabama's outside linebackers, just so happy to see them playing at the level they are after kind of a disappointing year last year. Turner's playing at the level he was as a freshman, and Chris Braswell has emerged and probably made the biggest plays on Alabama's defense. So no complaints with that position group.
Yeah.
And of course, secondary.
So I'm going to say B+, just because I don't know how tested the secondary is. I do think this is one of the best secondaries Alabama's had in a long time. Their pass defense statistics bear that out. They're ranked really high nationally in pass defense, but the only team we played this year that I think really had a really good passing offense was Texas.
Right.
And we did really well against them for 3 quarters, and then had a fourth quarter where we just had to come apart and had some bust in the secondary. So I think that's a question probably better answered after this LSU game.
Unfortunately,
because that's going to be the first real test since that Texas game. Really excited about the development of Terrion Arnold. A lot of people were complaining about him last year, and I was trying to urge people. It's his first year.
Yeah,
we've seen this happen before with Alabama cornerbacks, guys that became stars. They get picked on a little bit in their first year. I think he's playing at a high level this year. Kool-Aid's been steady as she goes. Malachi Moore, been a great communicator from that star position. And, Caleb Downs is the best freshman in the country, in my opinion. You've had some different guys at that other spot due to injuries. Jalen Key, Christian Story's played a little bit. So all in all, it's been good, but a little untested.
Special teams. I'm interested to see which way you go with this one. Do you just give the kicking group and give it? Do we have to throw in?
Or do you want to separate them? Do one kicking?
I say we give them a group, and I want to hear the whole. Yeah, we go. They're all sitting in the room together.
Oh wow!
So I'm going to say B+. I think the specialists have been really good. I mean, Riker's perfect. You can't get any better than that. Burnup has improved leaps and bounds from where he was when he came in. I just feel like the return units haven't been great.
Unfortunately,
Kool-Aid, has for some reason does not want to catch a punt the last 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, Saturday was not the first time that's happened. It's happened a few times, and it finally cost Alabama, 20 plus yards instead of 5 or 10 yards. So that's an issue
at a really critical time too, as far as
right.
Yeah. And everything. Yeah.
And that's an issue they need to get worked out in the bye week, whether it's, getting Kool-Aid confident catching punts again or putting somebody else in there. Because it's costing Alabama field position, and that's field position Alabama can't afford to lose with this offense. So a lot of penalties on returns this year. So I think the return groups have just not been great. We did block a punt. I think that was the Ole Miss game. We blocked a punt and got the ball on the 1 yard line, and then had to settle for a 40-something yard field goal.
We wind up in like a shotgun formation on the 1 yard.
Yeah, then a bad snap. That has to be one of the worst sequences I think I've ever seen in football. Starting from where the defense gives you the ball to going backwards. And they're trying to outlaw the brotherly shove, but why can't we just go to something like that? Milroe's a beast. Just get that guy in the end zone from the 1 yard line or less.
It should be the tush push every time.
Yes.
It makes too much sense. But in short, specialists, fantastic. As a group, special teams, it's just been okay. So I land the B+. It's kind of somewhere in the middle.
All right, real quick, on a national level, who are your top 4 teams right now? Playoff starts today. Who you putting in there?
I've been thinking about this a lot. It's a tough question.
It's very interesting. There's a lot of races still left to play out, but if you had to decide today,
it's always been one of those things. Do you rank the 4 most deserving teams, or the teams that you think are the 4 best teams? Because honestly, at this point, I think Georgia's still my number 1 team, even though their schedule at this point has not really tested them.
Right. Now, I will say this on Georgia's behalf, no fault of their own. They do lose one key game in losing Oklahoma because of the merger. The rest of it, the East just isn't that good. They can't force everybody else to be better teams. So
I'd probably have Florida State number 2.
Interesting.
I think they've got a fairly strong resume, and I'm really impressed with how they play on both sides of the ball. Kind of reminds me a lot of Nick Saban's early teams at Alabama. And I think Mike Norvell's one to watch for the future.
Yeah.
Then it really gets tough. I'd probably have Washington 3rd, just based on that win over Oregon.
Yeah.
That was a really nice win. Yeah. And then 4, it's either Michigan, Oklahoma. I'm forgetting a team.
I'd have to go with OU because Michigan just hasn't really. The best team Michigan played was Rutgers, right?
Yeah. Michigan's had a even worse schedule than Georgia to date.
Yeah. To me, it's either Michigan, Ohio State, or Oklahoma. Right. I think Michigan's a really good team, but like I said, I can't really
judge them.
I hate to penalize them because of their schedule, because I'm putting Georgia number one. Because when I watch Michigan, I feel like they're a really good team. But I think it's probably Oklahoma or Ohio State. And
Ohio State's played much better competition. You know?
Yeah.
The Penn State game and the Notre Dame game gets them by.
Ohio State's a weird team to me because I really felt like they should have lost that Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
And they don't really do anything spectacular. I will say they're much better on defense than they were a few years ago. Not nearly as explosive offensively, but they do okay on that side of the ball. A lot of weapons at wide receiver.
Yeah. I think that's the surprising thing with the weapons they have, that they're not better.
Yeah.
I would probably have Ohio State there just because I think they have two pretty good wins with Notre Dame and Penn State. And I look at Oklahoma and I really only see that Texas win. That would probably be my top four.
The Ohio State fan is warning us that we're not allowed to say bad things about Ohio State. So I don't know. They have the better resume than Michigan right now. But like I said, that one's going to play out. Michigan's they'll play at the end of the year. Winner goes to the playoffs. This is one of those years it doesn't look like the one-loss teams are going to get a shot at all. Raj, who is your top four?
I'm going to stick with Georgia. I got OU up there. That win in Texas was pretty big. Ohio State and probably Florida State. I just like the way Florida State looks, and not just saying that.
Did you just leave the Pac-12 in their last year?
No. Oregon. I got Oregon pretty up. I would say around 4 or 5. I think you can go either way with Oregon or Florida State. I'm Washington. I'm sorry, Washington will beat Oregon.
This is gonna be a tough year. It is. Irving team is not going to make it.
Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of really, really good one-loss teams, us included. Of course, obviously, if things play out the way we want them to do, and we win the SEC championship. But other than that, I mean, you're going to have your Oregons, Washingtons. There's going to be some teams in the Pac-12. Depends on what happens with Florida State. I got to look at their remaining schedule to see who else they have to place. But I mean, they're obviously the top. I think that's it, because I want to say they've.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they got there. I don't even know who's going to make the SEC championship game anymore. North Carolina was in the driver's seat, but then that loss is going to hurt them. So that's a jump.
Yeah. Speaking of ACC, Bama Beat, I want to get your opinion on this. And I asked her this the other day, and maybe somebody else. As far as Clemson's concerned, do you see them? Are they just completely out of the national title race? As far I guess what I'm trying to say is Bama has had their years where they kind of ebb and flow. They have the good years, they have the bad years, but they'll be back. Are we going to see Clemson be back anytime soon, or is it just kind of they're 4-3 now. There's a possibility they might lose 1 or 2 more games on the schedule. What is the take there?
I don't think so, honestly. Okay. That's just kind of my current feeling on it. I think Venables was a huge loss for that program. Yeah. Dabo's always relied on really good coordinators.
Yeah.
Also elite quarterback play. He was pretty fortunate there for a while. He had Deshaun Watson and then followed up with Trevor Lawrence. So Clemson is not recruiting at a level, in my opinion, that can, keep them at the top, especially on the line of scrimmage. They still pull some good defensive linemen, but the offensive line has been an issue for the last few years. So until something changes, I think Clemson will kind of revert back to a pretty good program, but not an elite program.
Yeah, and then the refusal to use the transfer portal at all is probably also going to come into play there as well. All right, Raj, we're going to run into a couple of questions of death real quick.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if you did a work, play, live, Raj, so I've got a couple to start.
All right, good.
We didn't talk about. Okay. All right. Work, play, live. Your 3 choices. I got 2 of them for you. The 3 choices: Auburn, Tuscaloosa, or Athens.
You asking me or?
No, I'm asking Bama Beat.
Oh, okay.
Work, play, live.
Yes.
Auburn.
Oof.
Tuscaloosa.
Oh man. I did live in Tuscaloosa for a short time, so I'll say live for Tuscaloosa.
How are you not going to play in Tuscaloosa though?
I want to know who he's going to play with. This is curious.
I'm going to play in Auburn because I've gone down there a few times, had a good time. As long as it's not the Iron Bowl, I won't go back for another Iron Bowl down there.
Yeah.
It never seems to go well when I go down there for the Iron Bowl. So, and I'll say work in Athens. I've never been to Athens, but I've heard it's a really nice town. It's just you got to put up with people barking at you 24/7, so that would be kind of annoying. But it's a nice town. Yeah, I guess I could live with it.
Rod, you go ahead.
All right. So concerning Jalen Milroe, if you could take two qualities from two current NFL quarterbacks and immediately implement them into Jalen Milroe, what two quarterbacks would you take and what qualities would you take?
I like this one, Raj.
It can be any quarterback or
any current quarterback. Yep, in the NFL.
In the NFL. Well, I think Milroe's his main weakness is probably processing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
As far as elite processors in the NFL, I mean, Tua's up there. Problem with Tua is he tends to turn the ball over.
Yeah.
Every now and then. So,
like last night.
Maybe.
The wound is still fresh.
Yeah, I'm a Dolphins fan, so it's still yeah.
Yeah, I was actually before we threw that interception, I was talking about how deadly. I was talking to someone I was watching the game with how deadly Tua is with his accuracy, and he is, but he just tends to make that he's prone to a bad turnover, especially against good teams. So, maybe Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you don't get to the level of the game that he did without processing ability. I mean,
agrees with y'all with Tua's processing.
Yeah. If Tom Brady was still playing, it'd be easy to go to him. But Rodgers got to where he is because he understands the game so well. So I think that would be the biggest thing for Milroe. And then there's two deficiencies I'd like to fix for Milroe next, and it would probably be his running instinctiveness.
Yeah,
and that would be Lamar Jackson.
Oh yeah.
If you go to someone who knows when to run and has a feel for that.
Yeah.
But the other one would be his footwork. And I'd have to say Tua on that. Tua's got great footwork.
Yeah.
He's always had great footwork. So those are the two that come to mind as far as Jalen's deficiencies.
Okay.
Currently.
Okay.
All right. If Alabama had to pick a new rival to end every year with, Auburn's out. We've kicked them to the curb. Who are you going with?
A new rival?
Yep. To end every year with a new Iron Bowl, a Metal Bowl, or Crystal Bowl, or
can it come from any conference? Anybody?
Anybody. My personal choice was Vanderbilt if you were going to stay in the SEC, but nobody seems to. That doesn't get much traction.
So it's got to be a new rival, right? You can't move LSU or Tennessee over, and
so you can move one of those. But I want to see what
I've got one that's not a new rival, and it's Notre Dame.
Nice.
That was a traditional rivalry for years. I think it'd be a really fun game, especially if you did a home and away deal. Where the Irish come to Tuscaloosa, Alabama goes back up to South Bend. I think that'd be huge. A really fun one.
Good for strength of schedule too.
Yeah. Raj, I want to approach this question real quick because there's and I agree with this comment. I do like it. Has been hesitant in running, and there's this time he doesn't have the instincts to just. I think that's where you were mentioning with Lamar Jackson. He just needs to know when to go and when not to.
Yeah, go. Once the ball's snapped, if you're going to run, just go ahead and do it. Don't hold the ball for 6 or 7 seconds and take a sack. So.
Yep. This one is interesting. Do I think Michigan will suffer a serious contract? I'll say no, because these investigations take so long that you might not even hear about this for 2 or 3 years. So you can have all the evidence right now in front of you, and the NCAA is not going to decide on this for several years.
That's true.
So the two people who are not even at the school right now are the people that are going to suffer for this. So that's just the way the NCAA tends to move. So I don't think it's going to impact this year at all. My personal feeling.
Yeah.
I agree with all that. These things take time. I don't see anything happening this season.
Yeah. Raj, did you have one more? Where are we at? You good?
I got one more. Yeah, if we have.
Okay. Bring it on. Yeah. Yep.
All right, Bama Beat. If somebody gave you the call right now and said they need you to be a position coach for Alabama right now, especially going into the week with LSU, what position coach would you want to take the helm for?
I like it.
Ooh. Well, based on my football knowledge, when I played running back, because that's what I played. So, but if I'm maybe defensive line, because I really want to stress gap integrity in this game. and and containing Jaden Daniels. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I couldn't help him beyond that. I could throw out those 2 phrases. And, then
and that would be it.
they
Gap
could turn back
integrity.
to Freddie Roach or the GA and
Yeah.
get some real coaching. But I wouldn't mind throwing those 2 phrases in there.
Yeah. I figured he'd pick Black and you'd see them out at the bar having a beer before. Well, I'm coaching him up, man. I'm coaching him up. So, or Cat LSU, Louisiana, they're dying for us to carry. Yeah. Well, I get it. And it's become a much more serious rival, especially when Saban got here too, I think.
Yeah.
And they're a little bad blood from there. All right, final question, and we'll let you go. Nick Saban finally retires, and you have to pick a new head coach out of these 4 choices. Lincoln Riley, Sam Pittman, Herb, or Raj?
Oh gosh.
Oh man.
That thing just kind of went.
I thought you were going to give me some good choices.
I did too. I
thought we were going to open up another Saban replacement conversation.
Yeah, that we'll have to do that in the offseason.
Thing with Lincoln Riley is like, yeah, you'll have a good offense, but defensively, I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Sam Pittman with what's going on at Arkansas this year.
I don't know how much longer he's going to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd have to be Lincoln Riley out of those choices. I mean, as much as I like you guys,
we wouldn't know what we're doing.
No, we would be calling you. Hey, what was that you said? Gap integrity?
Yeah, gap integrity. Yeah.
I'm just going to put you on speaker.
Yeah.
I feel for Sam Pittman because he's a really likable guy, and I think he brought a really nice culture to Arkansas. But he's a old position coach, and it's so much different than being a head coach. And I think the kind of sustaining a program is where he's fallen short at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
All right, man. We always appreciate you being on there. Tell everybody where to catch you out, check you out at.
Yeah, you can follow me on the Bama Beat on I guess it's X now. I'm still getting used to that. It's Twitter, X. I think it's my handle's at the Bama Beat. Tweeting during games, as long as I have good cell service, and we've got a little bit of recruiting information on there and stuff. So hey, check us out on there.
Appreciate it, man. Raj, any final thoughts? You good?
I'm good. Always good to have you on. I am excited about the LSU game, but I hate the fact that we're not playing Saturday. So it's kind of like one of those Saturdays where I'll tune into a few other games. I guess obviously the biggest cocktail party in the world with the Florida-Georgia game. I'll watch some of that and maybe a few other ones. But we gotta buy. I hope we get some rest because we're gonna need it.
To be honest,
last comment. That's a good comment. Go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
To be honest, I'm excited not to be playing this week.
Yes,
my
have a weekend off.
A break from this team. I'm also interested in that Florida-Georgia game.
Yeah.
Just to see Georgia without Brock Bowers. I don't have super high hopes of Florida pulling an upset, but I do think they're capable of keeping this game close. Graham Mertz has gotten better as the season goes along. He's kind of he's kind of one of those guys that's really good, or he's just real, average. So if he has a good game, I could see Florida keeping it close for a while. So I'll be watching that one on Saturday.
Yep. Appreciate everybody listening, chiming in, commenting. You can check us out here. We've got some YouTube videos out as well with our college picks with the current leader Herb, and an interesting one against Alabama's offense versus defense and Bama versus the world. So you guys can check it out this week. Herb for Bama Beat, for Raj, the Herb and Raj podcast. Appreciate everybody listening, especially tuning in at this new time. Everybody have a nice night and roll Tide.